The deadliest weapon here was never fired. It was invented to make bread. April 22nd, 1915. Ypres, Belgium. French shells hammer the German line at dusk. Then the German guns fall silent. 5,000 men wait in a silence that feels wrong. A wall of green mist rolls out of the earth, taller than a man. Soldiers who survived shell fire all day begin running from something bullets cannot stop. One man watches through field glasses, calm inside the chaos. Remember his face. 17 years earlier, London, 1898. The most alarming speech in the history of science. Sir William Crookes stands before the British Association and predicts a worldwide catastrophe. His warning is simple. The civilized world is running out of food. Every harvest strips nitrogen from the soil. Without it, wheat will not grow, and nearly all the world's usable nitrogen comes from two impossible places: islands off Peru, buried under cliffs of seabird droppings 100 feet deep. Men hack the white rock loose by hand, and they die young doing it. The rest comes from saltpeter mines in a Chilean desert that never sees rain. Every sack sails around Cape Horn, one fragile supply line feeding entire nations. Nations have already killed for it. Chile, Peru, and Bolivia fought a war over that desert. That is what nitrogen means in 1898, a resource worth going to war for. Crookes does the math on stage. The islands are emptying. The mines will follow. His deadline? Within a generation, the wheat-eating nations begin to starve. Then he offers one impossible escape. The answer is floating all around us. Nitrogen is 4/5 of every breath you take, and completely out of reach. In Germany, an ambitious young chemist decides that prize belongs to him. Karlsruhe, Germany, 1909. A laboratory not much bigger than a kitchen. Fritz Haber, brilliant, relentless, and desperate to matter. For years, he forces nitrogen and hydrogen together under crushing pressure and heat. Every attempt fails. The air refuses to give up what it holds. Then, on July 2nd, 1909, the apparatus begins to drip. Liquid ammonia, nitrogen pulled out of thin air, one slow drop at a time. Bread from air. The bottleneck that terrified Crookes breaks on a tabletop. But a tabletop cannot feed a planet. Enter Karl Bosch. His task: turn a laboratory trick into the largest machines ever built. Reactors the size of cathedrals, pressures no steel had ever survived. Test rigs burst, steel turns brittle and fails without warning. Bosch rebuilds every time. By 1913, the Oppau plant makes ammonia by the ton. Fertilizer pours onto German fields. Harvests climb. The famine deadline dissolves. They called it bread from air. It was also gunpowder from air. The nitrogen that grows wheat is the nitrogen inside every artillery shell. In 5 years, the second half of that sentence comes due. 1914. The war Europe promised would be short is not short. Within months, Britain's navy cuts Germany off from Chile's nitrates. No nitrates means no explosives. Germany should run dry by spring. Instead, Bosch's reactors pivot from fertilizer to munitions, almost overnight. Bread from air becomes shells from air. The war gets 4 more years. And Haber wants more. he goes to the generals with a new idea. Not a better shell, a weapon that ignores trenches entirely. Chlorine. Heavier than air, it flows downhill into the places where men hide. Haber argues the gas will shorten the war, and a shorter war saves lives. 6,000 cylinders are buried along the line at Ypres. For 3 weeks, the cylinders sit in the mud. The weapon waits on the wind. Now you know where this story began. April 22nd, 1915. The Green Cloud. The man with the field glasses is Fritz Haber, directing the release himself. Thousands of French and Algerian troops are dead or dying within minutes. A 4-mile hole tears open in the Allied line. Even Berlin is not ready for it. The father of bread from air is now the father of chemical warfare. There is one more person in this story, Haber's wife, Clara Immerwahr, the first woman to earn a chemistry doctorate at Breslau. A scientist in her own right, her career folded into his household. By 1915, she lectures housewives on science. Her own research is over. 9 days after Ypres, Haber hosts a celebration at their Berlin home. That night, in the garden, Clara dies by his service pistol. He leaves for the Eastern Front the next morning. History never recorded her reasons. We will not invent them. Germany loses the war anyway, and the world must decide what Fritz Haber is. Stockholm, 1919. The Nobel Prize in Chemistry goes to Fritz Haber. For ammonia, for bread from air. Allied scientists boycott the ceremony. Some refuse to stand in the same room. Allied newspapers call the award a disgrace. The committee's logic is uncomfortable. This discovery will feed billions. It stands. Haber rebuilds. His institute becomes the pride of German science. He even tries pulling gold from seawater to pay Germany's war debt himself. 6 years of searching. The ocean holds 1,000 times less gold than he calculated. Then 1933. The Nazis take power. Haber is Jewish. The fatherland he gassed men for orders him to fire every Jewish scientist. He resigns instead, writing that he chose colleagues by talent, never by bloodline. He dies a year later in a Basel hotel room, on the road to exile. One more fact. His institute once developed an insecticide for grain stores. The Nazis later modified it into the gas used in the death camps. Among the murdered were members of Fritz Haber's own extended family. One last connection. Follow the bread on your table backward. Every loaf traces to fertilizer, and nearly all fertilizer traces to that tabletop in Karlsruhe. Scientists estimate as many as half the people alive today exist because of it. 4 billion people, fed by the same chemistry that emptied the trenches at Ypres. Much of the nitrogen in your own body passed through a Haber Bosch reactor. The man who fed the world is the man who watched the cloud. It is in your bread. It is in you.